Welcome to Inside the Lines, presented by BetMGM. Joined by Nik Bonaddio and John Daigle, I'm Olivia Harlan Dekker. Let's look at the futures. We saw two MVP frontrunners battle it out on Monday night in Kansas City, so let's see how the odds have shifted. Jalen Hurts ran in 2 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes passed for 2 scores. Both quarterbacks were intercepted, but the Eagles came out on top, so Hurts is the new favorite to win MVP at plus 250. Mahomes odds, they dropped 50%, plus 450, so he's got the third best odds. Lamar Jackson's odds improved 25% after he had his second most passing yards of the season and his 4th game with at least 2 passing touchdowns. He's on fire. And last but not least, Tua Tagovailoa's odds stayed the same, even though he threw for 325 and 2 touchdowns. Nik, how are you approaching this market after all that movement last weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm going Patrick Mahomes here. And frankly, value betting aside, I think he should win it. To me, most valuable asks the question of where his team would be without him. And if you look at where the Chiefs are offensively outside of Travis Kelce, the personnel here is pretty grim. What the Chiefs do have, what Mahomes does have going for him, is upcoming games against true pass funnel defenses and Chargers, Bengals, the Raiders twice, all of whom are bottom 5 in pass defense efficiency. I think on a purely schedule basis, it sets up very, very nicely for Mahomes. And it basically, a plus 450, I think that's really, really good value on who is the best player in the league.
Absolutely. They're in Vegas this weekend. John, after 11 weeks of action, which player are you backing to win MVP?
I know he's down the board, but I can't escape Dak Prescott at 18-1. Just think about the Cowboys' last 5 games and how the offense revolves around him. A 71% completion rate, 308 passing yards per game, and 14 passing touchdowns and 2 picks in that time. Not only that, but the Cowboys are even passing the ball at the league's 5th highest rate with a 2-score lead in that span. They ignored their running backs altogether and instead pad their leads through the air. And the key for any long shot is, how is Prescott going to overtake those ahead of him in the market? And the Cowboys actually get the Eagles and Jalen Hurts in week 14, and then the Bills and Josh Allen in Buffalo in week 15. If the Cowboys pull off those 2 back-to-back wins, Dak's number is going to skyrocket. So maybe we don't get this one home, but I think we're getting tremendous odds right now given the Cowboys' schedule.
Let's continue to discuss how the Eagles' win in Kansas City is impacting the futures market, but focusing on the AFC, the Chiefs are still the favorite to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, even after their loss to the Eagles. Bettors can get a much better price right now at plus 110 than last week at minus 150. So the Ravens, who have the best record in the conference at 8-3, they have the second best odds at plus 200. Their odds moved over 60% from plus 550 last week. And the Dolphins' odds improved by more than 30% to plus 400 after their win over Vegas. And Jacksonville got an easy win over Tennessee, moving their odds to plus 600. John, this is now a very close race. Are you buying low on Kansas City or going elsewhere?
I am. And am I concerned about their offense long term? Yes. But they basically have through the rest of the regular season to figure it out, because I don't know if anyone's looked at the Chiefs' schedule the rest of the way, but they still have the Raiders twice, the Patriots, the Packers, the injury-riddled Bengals and Chargers, and then this Bills defense that also is missing several key pieces in their secondary in particular. So it sets up really well for the Chiefs to just stroll on in despite their own problems into the playoffs as the number 1 seed and have that time to figure it out. I still like the number at the Chiefs.
Well, Nik, we know you're looking at that schedule too, like you first mentioned. So which team do you like in this market?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the Chiefs. I think the Ravens are likely the more complete team, even without Mark Andrews. But, the Ravens have a much tougher schedule down the stretch. Back-to-back road games against Jacksonville, San Francisco, then coming right back at home against Miami. That's very, very different than playing the Raiders twice. And I think when you model it out, we have the Chiefs averaging out to about 13.1 wins and the Ravens at 12.3. So when you have a clear favorite like this and you're getting plus money on it, I think even though it's a lower value, the value is definitely on the Chiefs.
All right, let's narrow in on the weekend's game. It's already week 12. Let's discuss who the public is betting. We didn't love the Ravens to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, but the public is loving them this week in Los Angeles. Baltimore opened as a 4-point favorite, but with 73% of early bets on the Ravens to cover, the spread has moved down half a point to 3.5, 3.5. Nik, are you fading the public on Sunday night?
Yeah, this is a no bet for me. I think the range of performances you can get from the Ravens without Mark Andrews, we don't have really much evidence. We know that Isaiah likely is going to get targets, but there's just too much in the range for me to feel comfortable with this number. If it was maybe a little higher, a little lower, I could get into it. I do think maybe an under here is in play, but at the 3.5, I think it's a pretty efficient line given the range of possible Ravens performances. And for me, this is a no bet.
John, do you think the public's right here?
I'll still take the 3.5 with the public. I would prefer the 3 overall, like Nick. I just don't think we're going to get there because despite their injuries on offense, which could definitely give them a wide range of outcomes, Mark Andrews has been so important to that offense, not just this year, but historically with Lamar Jackson. The fact is, it's really still the defense that's been getting this team by, still lead the league in limiting yards per play and pass yards per attempt through the air. Quite literally leading the league and shutting down opponents in those two categories. So I lean with the defense more than anything here against a banged up Chargers offense, still looking for answers too.
Well, let's continue with week 12, but discuss a couple of trends that we're already seeing. The NFC has 4 of the 5 worst records in the NFL, but as a conference, they've been holding their own against the AFC. Since week 8, the NFC is 13-9-1 against the spread versus the AFC. That's almost 60%. They've been even better the last 2 weeks, going 6-1 against the spread. We've got 4 cross-conference games this week with 3 of the NFC teams as underdogs. John, which NFC team continues this trend and covers this weekend?
I'm going back to the Eagles in this spot as 3.5-point favorites. And I think it's a fair line because, yes, the Bills defense looked good in prime time. But remember, that was a quarterback who then became a third-string quarterback 24 hours later. And now think about what the Bills have lost beyond Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano. Micah Hyde and Dane Jackson and concussion protocol in their secondary. Teron Johnson, fortunately, resting at home. And the way the Eagles played against the Chiefs was clearly opponent-induced. A season-low 22 pass attempts, 27 carries overall for Philadelphia. In this spot, I genuinely think they can do what they want. So, although I expect the Bills to move the ball in offense, I don't know how they stop Philadelphia here.
Okay, I like that. Nick, which NFC team are you stacking your chips on?
Well, it's going to be tough, but I think I'm going to take the New York Football Giants against the Patriots. I mean, look, when you're talking about the Giants and the Patriots, it's kind of like a food critic analyzing the Olive Garden. It's kind of why are you wasting your time doing it? But since you asked, I feel like I'm obligated to tell you that for as many problems as the Giants have, the Patriots are even worse. From an efficiency perspective, the offense is about the same, which is to say terrible. But the Giants defense is better than the Patriots defense by about 3 to 4 expected points per game, which tells me Giants at home, the wrong team is favored here. So yeah, if I'm continuing my Olive Garden analogy and with a nod to Tommy DeVito, you can load me up with unlimited breadsticks with a spicy marinara Giants bet on the side, not just the spread, but the money line too.
I love it. Touchdown, Tommy. I love it. Now I'm hungry. Okay, sticking with trends. We have 6 divisional games this weekend, and 4 of them have been one-sided as of late. Each of these matchups feature one team covering the spread in 4 of their last 5 meetings. We have Rams over the Cardinals, Texans over the Jaguars, and Bengals over the Steelers, Vikings over the Bears. Nick, do you like your Steelers to buck this trend, or are you going in a different direction?
Like every time I do this show, I get called out on Twitter for making just a series of homer bets on the Steelers. And when faced with feedback like that, I'm going to do it again. Because when you're talking about trends like this, the natural assumption is to assume that the circumstance of the previous events is the same. And in the case of the Bengals and Steelers, it's definitely not. I mean, look, Jake Browning has nothing in common with Joe Burrow other than a set of initials. And now we have the Steelers going in straight up hallelujah mode now that Matt Canada and his bubble screens are in the past. And so it's hard to model out the latter, but we do know that Burrow is worth about 3 to 4 points relative to the spread. And considering that the Steelers are already analytically the better team, this line tells me this is mispriced and that there is value on the Steelers all the way to 3. So at -1, I think it's a clear Steelers spot.
Besides their initials. John, you got to bring some more jokes now. Nick's raising the bar pretty good. Which one of these teams continues their dominating ways and covers, John?
I like the Texans to cover here, and it's close. But the Jaguars, I believe, are a team that falls somewhere between their performances the last 2 weeks. They're two blowouts that went both directions. For me, though, I still have major concerns about their defense. Because, yes, they put Will Levis under pressure on 40% of his dropbacks. But if you step back and see the last month for the Titans, that was actually the lowest pressure rate Will Levis has been under as the team starter behind that shoddy offensive line. So we still have questions whether the Jaguars can get there against a formidable opponent. Also, the last time these two teams played, the Texans didn't have a running game, still were figuring it out, and still won 37-17, including going up 17-0 in the first half. So CJ Stroud from a clean pocket is my read on this situation, and I'm going to bet the Texans in that case every time.
Okay, I like it. Well, it's no secret that there are some stinkers on Sunday this week. It's a funny betting week as well. So let's stick with week 12, but move from spreads to totals and look at all these low totals. There are 4 games with totals in the mid to low 30s, and it's been a long time since we've had multiple totals this low in the same week. Like I said, a couple stinkers. Per Evan Abrams, the media and research director for the Action Network, we haven't had 3 totals close at 35 or lower in the same week since week 2 of the 2007 season. Patriots, Giants, and Steelers, Bengals are both under 35 this week. Browns, Broncos is right there at 35. Panthers, Titans, very close at 36.5. John, how are you betting these low totals?
My favorite one for this week, as Nick already alluded to, is the Steelers-Bengals game, actually, because to me, I have questions about the Steelers' offense under a new play caller. Maybe they're the same thing with Kenny Pickett after all, but it's the defenses here that I think are going to help us get over 34.5 points, because honestly, it's two brick but don't bend defenses. Like, the Steelers can contain you, but when you gain a big play, that's what they're best in allowing, even 25th in explosive pass rate through the air. And on the other side of the ball, of course, Lou Anarumo has just struggled all year to get the personnel and pieces right, and that's why the Bengals are allowing a league high in explosive passes. Not only that, but a league high in explosive runs on the ground of 10 plus yards too. So overall, I think the offenses, it may not be pretty, but I think they can move the ball with ease in this game. I'll go over.
God, see, different quarterback one side, different play caller other side. It's a no bet for me. Too many unknowns. Nick, are you sticking with the Steelers?
Totally fair.
Yeah, I actually like the Browns and Broncos in this spot. When I think about totals betting, like John made a good point, another way to think about low totals is not only a bet against the offenses, but a bet against turnovers or a special teams touchdown. I find, generally speaking, that the books have a difficult time modeling out the impacts of those events on game outcomes. So if I'm looking to attack a total, I'm looking for a team that has a lot of takeaways, a lot of giveaways, or significantly outperforms in special teams. Now, I could spend half the time going into each one of these, but I'll cut to the chase. If you were to count the number of takeaways and giveaways by each set of teams in the games we listed, you'll find the Browns and Broncos have 67 between them, compared to 55, 53, and 39 for the other games. In fact, the Browns and Broncos have the highest total of any game this week. So to me, that strongly suggests an over.
Okay, I like it. So before we wrap up the episode, we're giving you our blue chip bets, aka the best bets. Anything you love. It can be spread, money line, total, prop, whatever you want. Nick, what is your blue chip bet?
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about college football this week, but I think I'm going to college football,
All right.
and I'm doing a 3-team, 6-point teaser: Washington, Alabama, Texas. And so in college
All right.
football, I'm a big fan of narratives, and right now the race for the playoffs is as tight as it's ever been. We've never had a season with this many teams with such few losses late in the season. So if you're on the bubble like Washington, Alabama, and Texas are, you're not only looking to win, but you're looking to grab some style points as well. So give me those three who need to impress to solidify their position. And given the fact that either the Buckeyes or Wolverines are going to lose this week, it really puts them in place to move up, and they can really solidify their case with a big win. So you may want to adjust the number, like maybe with the teaser, you want to get Alabama below 7 or Washington below 10. I'm at 6 because I like 2-1 in the favorites, and I think it's a great spot for all three teams.
I like that. We are ready for expansion in the college football playoff. I can't wait. John, what's your blue chip bet for the people?
I'm going to go to the NFL and hand to the sky. I was on the Chiefs as 2.5-point favorites, and I felt like I was robbed on Monday night because they should have scored 30 points in that game and ended up losing instead. But I do feel comfortable going back to the Eagles, and it's because what everyone saw once the first two games of that 3-game afternoon slate on Sunday ended was a half of Zach Wilson and what looked like a ferocious Bills defense. But now we know Zach Wilson has become the team's third-string option, and the Bills lost even more players on that side of the ball. Micah Hyde and Dane Jackson in concussion protocol, and Teron Johnson thankfully resting at home. Not only that, but the way the Eagles schemed their offense against the Chiefs was clearly opponent-specific. A season-low 22 pass attempts for Jalen Hurts, 27 carries on the ground for the Eagles overall. When against this Bills defense, with that many injuries now, a cluster of them, I think they can have their way. So, although I expect Josh Allen to be able to move the ball as well, I still like the Eagles to cover the number because I don't know how Buffalo stops them.
Okay, I like it. Thanks for both of you for your insight. We appreciate it. Enjoy your Thanksgiving football watching, and wherever you all at home are watching, we appreciate you joining us every week. We'll be back every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. See you next week, and happy Thanksgiving.